I'm going to say two things to you. Number one, I'm not from London, so anytime you want a continued relationship with these brothers here in London, they'll give you that to provide you with information. Number two, from now on, you should consider going into a contract with your Lord, acknowledge Him, you created me, and you created everything. And I want to build a closer relationship with you through your books, through your prophets, and reflecting on your creation. That's how you're going to build a relationship with God. Now, when you build that relationship with God, you build that relationship with God so that you become in contact with His power, His energy, and when you serve Him, He will reveal things to you that I cannot reveal. Now, when you get into that contract with God, that agreement with God, and that road with God, that's what you call a shahada, or it's called a covenant. It's between you and God. When you enter that covenant with God, God will guide you towards Him. He will give you light. He will give you bayinat, clarity about Him. And when you start serving Him, you will be exactly where you want to be. So my advice to you, consider that more knowledge you get about God, you walk closer to Him. And the more you walk closer to Him, you will see Him clearly. You will see His instructions clearly. You will see the truth brighter. Because we don't see the truth because from where we stand. If you stand far away from something, can you see it? So the view of something far and the view of something close is different. So the closer we get to God, it's clearer we know Him. The further away we get from God by the life choices we make, then it's more difficult. So if I live a life far away from God, I'm living in darkness. I'm standing in darkness. And if you're in darkness, you can't see the light. We can't see the light. So the question is, in order for us to see God, we have to make a movement. We have to go closer to Him. How does one get close to God? Through knowledge, through sacrifice. So someone will say, I'm trying to connect with God, but being pissed, being intoxicated, being drunk ain't going to help me. Right. Now, to be unjust is not going to help me. To be insincere and to lie and deceive is not going to help me. Exactly. So when we make choices in life that are pure, that are clean, we get closer to God. And when we get closer to God, you will see things that I cannot explain to you. But when you get close to God, you get close to God for one purpose. Number one, to enter into a contract with Him, to enter into a covenant with God. And that covenant means to say that you acknowledge who He is, you know who He is not, and you by nature will submit to power. As I said before, the nature of power. When a lesser power come in contact with a greater power, the lesser power have to submit. And it's a principle everywhere. A student will submit to the teacher. It's an act of submission. I listen to you, I'm learning from you, I'm asking questions. So that's the nature of power. So when we come in contact with God, we are lesser power, we come in contact with a greater power, we have no other choice but to submit. Now the barriers of submitting is barriers. It's because sometimes we are enslaved to the pleasures. And if a person is enslaved to intoxication, or he is enslaved to a lifestyle, he will understand, if I go to God, very likely God is going to ask me to give this up. And because I don't want to give these worldly pleasures up, exactly. So a lot of people who argue against God, they're not arguing against God. What they're arguing is in defense of their right and freedom to do as they like. It's because they don't want to give up the pleasures that God don't want them to engage in. So we engage in adultery and fornication, irresponsibility, drunkenness. We engage in a huge amount of behavior that is ungodly. And we are denying God His supreme authority and rights because we want the sole right, the power to do as we like. And then we live in a society that is radically about liberalism. Freedom, moral freedom. Freedom to do this. A child could take the parents to court. A woman could do this and men could do this. Total freedom, chaotic. So my thing to you is, beloved brother, You are an inspiration to me. You remind me of myself a lot on my journey. And I'm simply saying to you, when you come in contact with power, the natural thing to do is submit. And when a person have difficulty in submitting to power, it's only because they are in prison and Satan have them at ransom because of the pleasures in which they serve. They become enslaved to pleasure, and when you become a slave to the pleasure, that becomes your master. So you don't want to give this master up in order to serve that master, because the true master will tell you, you cannot do what you want. Your parents will tell you, when it's 7 o'clock, time for bed. When it's time to eat, you shall wash your hands. When it's time to go to school, you get ready. Exactly. Now, so we, for our own good, don't want to obey God, because we want that God within ourselves to do whatever we want. And that's the reason why a lot of people cannot access the truth. They do not make a connection with the truth, because they are serving a God of their carnal desires, and they don't want to give this God up in order to serve the true God.
I agree 100%. And I already give up to all of these like pleasures. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't gamble, I don't do any around. I'm trying to follow God's path.
Yeah.
And, on the other side, to learn because I don't know anything. I just know a little bit.
Right, that's good. But the thing is, would you consider your contract or your covenant with God, or making a contract?
I am considering, for this reason I'm preparing, because I want to know everything.
Right, that's fine. Now there's some brothers here.
Fully prepared. I don't want to do it without knowing.
What is your name?
Saf.
Saf. You can never be fully prepared. Take it from me. I'm a revert as well. I accepted Islam, and I was similarly where you are today.
Which one was your background?
Christianity.
Okay.
So I'm where you are today.
I was neither Christian. I was without religion.
Right. So you come from a good place, and what I'm trying to say, you could never be fully prepared.
Yeah.
The only way is like somebody coming and saying, you see, in training, when you're training to do something, training for a marathon, you're preparing, you're in the marathon.
Yeah.
Right. So if you want to be on the path of God, to take a covenant with God, you don't need training.
Yeah.
You already have the training. All you need is the will to say to God, yes, Master, I acknowledge you. Yes, I will not deny you. Yes, I'm prepared to serve you. Yes, I've acknowledged that you send guidance to me, discipline to me, love to me. So all you need to say to God is yes. If you say yes to God, yes to truth, yes to discipline, yes to prophethood, recognizing God's messenger, his divine messengers, then you are in a covenant with God. You're in a covenant with God. And if you're in a covenant with God and you were to die in an hour from now, honestly, with sincerity, God promised us that he will give you everlasting life, paradise, and pleasures that is unimaginable. The peak and pinnacle of pleasures is what God promised us. Why? Do you know why? Our parents were born in paradise. So in our DNA, our spiritual DNA, we have a yearning for paradise. So sometimes we want the paradise in this world, but God is saying to us, you serve me, I will give you that paradise in which you came from. So our spiritual DNA is that our forefathers, Adam and Eve, were born in paradise. So our DNA recognized paradise, and we want a paradise, and God said, I will give you that paradise, but submit, obey, follow the contract that I have with me, go into a contract with God, which is called a shahada, which is called a covenant between you and God. And when you come into that contract, you will submit, pray, serve him, and all of the benefit goes to you. Nothing you do to God will benefit God. Everything you do will benefit you. So if your parents said to you, before we go on that journey, go and use the bathroom, have a wee. That's to your benefit, because on the road you may not have a place to stop to have a wee. So every time we obey our parents, it benefits us, right? Why? Because they know better. God knows better than our parents, and he's all knowing. He has all the information, and he knows what is best for us. So when he gives us instructions and commands, it is only to benefit us. So this is what I'm saying. We're here now. We have a lovely conversation, and if you say yes to one God, you say yes to the power of God, you say yes to he's sending prophets and messengers and books, and you want to serve that God and connect with that power, make a connection with that power, and you want to walk away from darkness, and you want to walk away from sins, and you want to walk away from corruption and everything that is destroying the human being, then by principle you're ready to say the Shahada. You're ready for your covenant.